Hey, this is Sander Kleinenberg, DJ and producer, and you're listening to the Liverpool Connection Podcast about music and football.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Liverpool Connection Podcast. I'm your host Daz. This is my music and football episodes where I usually bring on a guest that's into music and football, which to me are the two loves of life. Obviously my family, but the two loves of life. I've grown up with music and football and they kind of connect well together. My next guest is the first guest of 2026, and I couldn't be happier to have him on. He's a DJ, producer, label boss, Sander Kleinenberg. He's an Ajax fan. He's not happy at the moment with him, but hopefully this will be a little therapy for you, Sander. But welcome to the podcast, mate. It's an absolute honor to have you on.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's great to combine these two worlds because it's the same here. I obviously grew up, well, not obviously, but I grew up in the east of the Netherlands. So my first love for football was a little team called Heracles, which is in the east. Small team. They're always sort of like, when they do really well, they're in the middle of the league. And when they do really bad, they're second division. But that was sort of my first love. And then moving to Amsterdam about 20 years ago, Ajax, which in my family had always been an important club. My uncle was a huge fan in the stadium his whole life. So it felt very natural to sort of slowly migrate to that team. So I did. And trying to catch as many games as I can. It's obviously the job doesn't permit to be everywhere, but follow it as good as I can.
Well, I mean, for me, Ajax are part of European royalty. You've won the European Cup 4 times, which is up there. I mean, Liverpool have won it, six times, 5. But, the thing with Ajax is, when I think of Ajax, I think of Johan Cruyff, just an amazing footballer. Growing up watching somebody turn like that at a dime, it was just amazing. He was silky smooth. And what is it about Ajax? It was like there was something in the water because, you got your Seedorfs, your Bergkamps, Van Bastens. There was something in that water that produced these amazing footballers. And the academies at Ajax are so good.
Yeah. Don't forget Rijkaard. And also don't forget Ibrahimovic.
Yeah.
Suarez. I mean, we've had a few pretty incredible players who've moved on and done really well. I saw Bessie play yesterday for Nigeria. Wasn't too bad. He didn't succeed at Ajax, but I think a lot of Ajax supporters are looking at him now, going like, oh, okay, well, wait a minute, maybe too soon. Mm-hmm. But what is it with Ajax? I think the Netherlands. It's funny because we could draw the comparison with DJs. I think that we're pretty decent functioning society. We've got structures in place almost everywhere. We have it's called the it's a weird word, but it's polder model, and it kind of a polder is land that we've reclaimed from the sea. So what we did was we dug canals around it. And then we pump the water out. That's why you see so many windmills in the Netherlands. They're not to make bread. They're irrigational, part of an irrigational system to keep our feet dry. And if you look deep into Dutch society, I think the whole idea of working together to earn a place of living or to secure a living is deeply embedded in Dutch culture. And I think if you look at the way that football is structured from early on, I think the way that we organize ourselves is probably has a fundament in the successes that Dutch football has seen over time. Obviously, total football, what Johan Cruyff did, what he later on, if you look at Barcelona, you could arguably say, okay, this is what Johan Cruyff's legacy has brought forward, specifically the Barcelona of 10 years ago and 15 years, the tiki taka, the total football, sort of like defense is offense, and teams that sort of work together in tandem. Probably has something to do with again, that sort of like way of organizing, the structure of how we organize from early on. So from the school to the teams. I think that structure really helped Dutch football.
Well, I mean, again, we were talking off camera about the pressures of like young kids as well. Obviously all these academies, they have 9 and 10-year-olds that want to play for Liverpool, want to play for Ajax. And there's so much pressure on these kids nowadays. I mean, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, a Man City academy kid, he didn't get to the next level, so he committed suicide. I mean, it's horrible. Like, I mean, my mate has a football academy over here, and sometimes I see the parents, they want these kids to make it because they didn't. So you see that like pushing their child, and for me, there's a lot of pressure on children to make it. And football's all about having fun, especially when you're young, and that's how it should be. And I think we're putting too much pressure on these kids, and a lot of these clubs today really need to take care of their academy, like you were saying before. Teach them what it's going to be like to have money. Teach them what it's going to be like to be in the real world. All they're being taught is football.
I mean, obviously, I think the globalized world and what that has meant for what it means now to be a global football phenomena or a global star has more repercussions now in many regards than it used to be, because again, I think these kids potentially make more money than they could ever spend, or it's in some cases it's billions, and I think structures that are built around this talent obviously also need to take care of that part of that sort of growth into becoming a successful player. The comparison to DJs and DJ culture in the last 25, 30 years is easy to make. It's like, you look at someone like Avicii, who couldn't deal with the pressures of what it meant to be, a global phenomena. I'm obviously jumping to conclusions. I'm not an expert, and I'm also not a psychologist. But I knew him, and I know that everything that his ambition entitled was basically, I want to become Paul Oakenfold. I want to become part of this scene. I want to be respected. The idea of becoming a global pop star was not something in the books back in the early days of his rise and of DJ culture in general. It's like David Guetta, Calvin Harris, Avicii, Swedish House Mafia. They have ended up becoming the Michael Jacksons of our time in terms of power, in terms of making money. They sell out stadiums, so the comparison is fair. And I think it's the same with football. Is you start when you're 10, 11 years old, and you were right. It's about passion. It's about like enjoying that game. Sure, I mean, sometimes parents can overdo it because, I don't know, maybe it's some sort of, they see the success of their kids as some revenge of something they didn't achieve themselves. Funny enough, my niece, my brother's daughter is one of the 10 best and most talented tennis players in the Netherlands. And to see what happens around such a kid when they have that type of talent, and the decisions they need to make at an early age, the emotional stability that they need to develop far earlier than anyone of their peers applies to any type of talent. Talking about football and seeing it firsthand with my niece, it's pretty remarkable what it takes to support such talent, to stand around it, to protect it against the pressures of the world, to protect it against themselves and their own ideas and overdoing it and being too harsh and forgetting about that it's a game that they should enjoy. And these things should be taken into account. I think in the last 30-40 years, again, the comparison with DJs is the same. I think what football has become, the international power it has. I mean, it's obviously been miles ahead of the success of DJs. But even still, it's like now you could go to a bar in Austin, there'll be a Liverpool game on live, or you go to Tokyo, there'll be a Liverpool bar. So the ability to really, at least digitally, be very, very close to the development of a team and the sort of like the successes or the failures of a team is now a global phenomenon. You could be in New Zealand and you would hear the same thing at the same time and seeing the same results as someone who's in the stadium, which is an odd new reality. And I think dealing with that pressure. Just imagine again, you're 12 years old, you're really good at football, and 8 years later you can't walk the streets because everybody wants something of you. That's wild, dude. That's really crazy. And I've had a glimpse of it. My career, I sometimes walk in a plane and somebody go like, "Oh, dude, yeah, love your records," or whatever. And that's already odd, let alone that 70% of men 70% of anyone in an airplane would go like, "Oh my God, that's him or her." It's I think those type of powers and those type of psychological effects, or the effects of that stardom, needs to be controlled. And again, there's not a lot of examples around of people at an older age that could help young ones sort of like teach how to deal with that. And coming back to the Ajax school, it is run mostly by former footballers. It's like it's I think the idea within Ajax is like, okay, we want to teach our youth and have them be taught by former stars. So there's I guess a good little structure in place with that in mind. And I think DJs should do the same. Older DJs like me should, whenever we see young talent come by and we see the potential, I think it's a noble task to nourish them and to guide them.
Yeah, well, I mean, put your arm around them. That's the thing. I mean, you read so much about Avicii and what we see on YouTube, on social media, like, he's having the time of his life, but there's so many people trying to suck so much out of you. If you're a popular DJ or a footballer, you've got this entourage of leeches, basically, who just want what they can get from you, and then they'll move on to the next thing. And I just think a lot of the kids today, it's the same with football and the same with DJing. It's a coalition of like, these kids see DJs on private jets and all this and champagne caviar. It's not like that. It's a long,
well, I mean, for some it is. No, for some it is, but the journey to get there is obviously often forgotten, and you often see. I always, it's like I often make the comparison, like you live in a house and you climb the stairs to the next level of your house, and people only see you at that last step. You're like, oh yeah, he walks into the room. They don't see the 20 steps that you made before you got into that room. And I think with careers, it's the same thing. It's like you never know where someone's from, what kind of what kind of effort had to be done. And obviously also the I forgot the word for it, but the things you cannot do, the birthdays you miss, the normal sort of social structures that are in place for a lot of people that you don't have, family that you don't see, you working in the weekends where everybody's free. It's like it's a kind of a bizarre place to be at times. You got to be strong on your feet to survive that type of thing. And Yeah, I think, and also the funny thing is like my career has been through a few waves as well, and some of them were successful, some of them were less successful. I've always kind of sort of like saw my artistic journey as something I shouldn't settle for a sound, or I shouldn't settle for a moment of success. I love DJing because it's a constant sort of evolving ball of creativity where constantly there's new injections of fun stuff and new angles that I want to be a part of, because I'm a DJ, I'm a curator, I'm not a so yeah. So making edits, translating current vibes into your sets, obviously in a digital environment, is so much quicker and so much easier. So I'm not mad at where we are at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can do the loops and everything. I just think there was nothing better than going to a record shop though and actually buying vinyl. Just because it's a bit soulless, uh, buying from Beatport or Traxsource or Juno, wherever you buy, digital music from. It's just a one-on-one. There's no conversation. And I'm sure you get sent so much, and a lot of stuff gets, through the cracks. But just being able to go shopping for vinyl and creating that social aspect of it, where you get to talk to like-minded people, you'd become mates with the seller. For me, it was Three Beat, Steve Parry, uh,
Oh,
Pez,
Steve, yeah, for sure. Well,
Pez and
still in the middle, still in the game. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I'm a little. Yes, I agree that obviously the social aspect of the record store. I remember vividly, the Thursday nights when all the import on Thursdays where I grew up. That's where the imports would arrive, and the fresh music arrived at the store. And you would see. I mean, obviously, there was a time when I was just a little boy, and there was already a very accomplished DJs in the Netherlands who I looked up to, and they were in those stores, and they were like the kings of that time, and seeing them sort of like getting the hottest promos, and you kind of sort of fight over sort of the three copies that were there, and it's like, well, maybe, but it's on hold because this and that and so and such. So I think to a certain extent, I mean, this is the two-faced thing about where we have landed in terms of distribution, in terms of what the digital reality of this world has done to us. I think how it started, back in San Francisco with the internet, the hippies sort of creating it and building the infrastructure around it. Their idea was like, okay, it's going to make the world more democratic, right? It's like it's going to give everybody a chance to become a part of something without potentially having to run through some glass ceilings, or so some hoops along the way that, even though you would have talent, would still hold you back because of an existing infrastructures. And I kind of tend to agree with that a little bit. And yes, I do. I am happy that I'm happy that first of all, I'm happy that I don't have to carry those records around anymore. There's a part of that sort of social structure that I found back in the day fairly intimidating. So you need to be a certain type of person to go in there and to sort of make that difference and sort of like make yourself known. And some people would rather have their art speak for themselves, and they're not that sort of like outgoing and for those people, I guess this reality is a little bit more less threatening and maybe a bit more open for adaptation, I should say, or is it adaptation? Whatever. Sorry, my English. I'm try to say things in the best possible way, try to find the best words, but I'm also just an idiot, so sometimes I'm stuck in translation. So so basically with everything in life, it has its ups and it has its downs, and you're totally right. The record store was the nerve center of where trends were born. It's like, if your local seller or the guy that you would sell you the record would give you that sort of like, dude, this is, what's going to make a difference. And I know it's a little odd right now, and maybe it sounds X, Y, or Z, but trust me, you just have to play this record out and you understand what I'm saying. And I think, yeah, that sort of element to our scene I miss. But then again, there's people out there on the internet who can have that same sort of bring that same type of enthusiasm across. Look at the Fish. What's his name? The English vinyl.
Fish Octagon.
That's him. Yeah, it's like I could look at him and go like he's a weird dude, but he's made such an impact, and it's all through positivity because he loves this music and he loves the history and loves talking about it. It's hilarious how that sort of like, I'm not sure if somebody like that would have had the same sort of like chance 30 years ago. You know what I mean? And that I do love about the internet and yeah, that part of it at least.
Yeah, I don't think 30 years ago I would have ever thought somebody wearing a bathrobe and eating Weetabix would
Exactly.
Would be getting booked for. I mean, I actually love it. Yeah, he is a strange looking fella, but he knows his shit.
Yeah, dude, he would. Sometimes this is not to big myself up in any way, shape, or form, but I've made quite a few records in my life, and not all of them are top of mind. And sometimes he would like play a record of mine that I made like in '95, and he'd be like, "Yeah," and he'd tag me on it, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, dude, thank you." It's like you're reminding me of something that it was long forgotten in my mind as well. And it's hilarious. Yeah, it's a great guy.
I mean, I love it because he puts graft in.
Yeah,
He works hard
yeah,
to get where he is, and whether this lasts, for the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, who cares? He's living in the moment.
amazing.
Fair play to him. I just saw that he just played in Australia, and I mean,
Yeah,
2 years ago, he's probably playing in a bar somewhere in wherever he's from, outside of London, I think.
yeah,
And
yeah.
now he's playing Australia. I'm like, fair play to you, mate.
You know what I mean? And I've seen a bunch of other kids like coming through. Joel Zimmerman, Dead Mouse comes to mind. He's a very awkward, on his own, super opinionated. Some people really can deal with his honesty, and maybe he's somewhat on the spectrum or whatever. Someone like that, if he would have to sort of stand in a record store and make a difference for himself, I'm not really sure if you know what I mean. It's like yeah, so there's two sides to the story. I like progress, and I like the fact that we are at a place where someone like that being picked up by the internet, embraced by doing something unique, doing something special, and then making a career out of it is also something wonderful. And I think the gatekeeping, and I've had to deal with that quite a bit, that used to be in place. Your Pete Tongs, your radio stations, the hierarchy that was in place in the traditional form, the type of journalist you need to be buddy with, and if they didn't like you or you were whatever not relevant in their eyes, it was more difficult to sort of get through to standing in front of 500 people or standing in front of 1,000 people. So the whole, again, the gatekeeping through the digital revolution has been taken down, and I think the sort of direct, marketing, the direct sort of to the customer type of element of what the internet is wonderful. And I love it. I embrace it, and I'm not even sure if I'm very good at it because but that's irrelevant. I look at it and I'm excited of what I see, and every year there's usually something that sort of breaks through that I'm very excited about, and so.
Well, I mean, obviously, again, we do live in a social media driven world, and a TikTok DJ can, all of a sudden blow up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because the phone revolution, as I like to call it, I don't get it, but I get it. I think I don't get it because I'm from the older generation where, we just went to dance and barely looked at the DJ. Now you've got kids that just like to, film a drop. I don't,
Yeah,
I don't
but I mean,
understand it, but I
well, maybe, well,
living in a moment.
no, I hear what you're saying. It was like when we grew up in clubs, in a dark club, doing God knows whatever, and getting lost in the moment, and how beautiful that is, and how therapeutic that can be, and how that helped us sort of, create our identities off the back of that. Um, when you're saying like, I have an issue, or I find it difficult to see everybody trying to capture the moment or chasing whatever the moment is. I think it is more an effect of the success of what we have created. It's more the result of the tremendous success that electronic music has become and DJ culture has become. Then, I mean, obviously, listen. There's no doubt there is at the moment um, we're living through times where it's overused because I don't know. I guess we got to get used to this new power that we have, and everybody's still finding their way, having to build a shield against it, and having to protect your own identity from it. But I don't know. It's like I don't want to be the guy that sort of like is in the village and like protesting the train, because because I'm in the business of selling horses. It's like I don't want to be that guy. I embrace the future, and sure, of course, there's an element to it that it can be, where there's trickery or it's basically fake. It's like jacked up for you to believe that it's more than it really is, because that's often the case with marketing in general. It's like you look at things, you look at certain DJs, and you go like, "Wow, okay, this guy, like, what an incredible!" But it's just little moments. I think we have to put that all into perspective. And then looking back at the 80s or the 70s, managers of pop bands would like literally drive through the country buying the 7 inches up from every single record store that they saw just to be in the top 40, and therefore sort of kickstarting their success, or amplifying their own success. And so it is of all ages that people want to make a difference or want to make a living, or try and fuck the system, getting higher in the hierarchy. That's just a fact of life. And the way that it's done with social media, it's not any different from how it used to be. I don't know. I find it difficult to see that difference. Like, what's the difference between reading the newspaper, watching television, or watching your phone? Like, I saw adolescents, of course, you try and sort of look at it and go like, okay, so what have we created? I'd rather teach my kids to deal with these new gadgets, and my kids are already better with it than I am, because they already have better filters than I am, and they go like, "Oh, Dad, that's fake. You see that's fake, right?" Like, you know what I mean? It's like they already navigate that field better than I do. So I'm very hopeful about the future, and I think a lot of that sort of used to be better, or used to be, or we're living in dangerous times, and we've always lived in dangerous times. And again, I don't want to be the guy that's sort of like, oh my God, the train, and we're all going to die. No, it's just we're going to have to adapt and deal with it. And yeah, sure, it's got some issues. It's been hijacked by some really nefarious forces, I feel, in the world politically. With looking around the way that it's used. But overall, I'm optimistic on, once the dust has settled, what it will become. And again, the democratization of that art talent that shines through at the moment is something that I feel is quite positive. So yeah.
I think I've found so many artists through social media as well.
Yeah.
That I probably never would have done if I'd gone to a record shop as well. So,
possibly, yeah.
I'm just finding these, like, especially electronica bands. I'm just finding, and I'm just like, I'm mesmerized by it. I love guitars, I love drums, but analog synths, they're just they do something to me. I put headphones on and I just get lost
Of course,
in
yeah.
that world. So that's why I love Bandcamp. I go down the rabbit hole and I see where it takes me.
I'm on this. There's a thing called Hype Edit, and it's like it's almost becoming like a Beatport style thing where you, if you want to download the record, you have to simply follow the artist and give the artist some love by leaving a comment on SoundCloud or following them on Spotify, and it's incredible. Like I go in there, and yeah, sure, 90% is like oof, okay, whatever, but sometimes there's these incredible gems that come up, and I love that. It's like I think slowly a lot of people are saying, the a big job in the future is curating, right? It's like weeding through all the nonsense to sort of like reap the award by that sort of thing that makes that difference. And I think it's with a lot of things, it's like we used to give the curation aspect of it to the BBC or to the national radio, or we would give it, but I think curating now is definitely the word and the thing to follow, like how we're going to use the incredible amount of content that is bombarded upon us, and we need people to sort of be the front, we need people at the frontier of that and sort of go like, yeah, this, yes, no, yes, no, yes, and trust them. And I think it's funny because all my life since I was 15, this is what I've been doing, right? Like I've been listening to tunes, and I think my job is not so much standing on a stage and sort of like put my hands up in the air and play 20 relevant records or what I think are relevant records. No, it's the 2,000 records that I went through to get to those 20, and that's the job. That's what matters. Yeah, it's good. It's like we're DJs are almost wired to be at that forefront. Yeah.
Well, do you remember John Peel?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. See, he was a curator. The John Peel sessions. I would have given anything to go and see. Because they do little YouTube videos where they let an artist go and take one record to listen to, and I would love just an hour in there to see so many amazing records. Like I just grew up with John Peel.
Yeah.
It was everything. It was indie, it was psych rock, it was, acid house. He played everything. And that's what shaped me as a listener. And, I try to do my side of things, curate with what I have, onto my children, and they're starting to go, oh, I like that. I like that. I like that. And I'm like, well, that's good.
Yeah. It's the same with me. My 21-year-old is now going out and she loves certain artists out there and has a real sound and identity of her own, which I'm really proud of. It's not like no, she's yeah. I think I don't know. It's a bit cheeky to say, but I think the success of your kids is a mirror of your own. I think if you can, I don't know, it's kind of like a mirror of like, hey, I'm doing something okay, I'm doing something right because she is on her own and makes her own decisions and creates her own style. So she would send me records on a weekly basis and go like, have you heard this? And I wouldn't, and then, but it's amazing. It's like I'm very proud of that. I don't know why I made that little detour, but you're absolutely right. Your children are listen to it, and also the other way around. That's what my point was. Where sometimes she would find something that maybe I've played like 20 years ago. Like, have you heard this? And I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. Not only have I heard this, I put this in an essential mix back in 2003. And so it's good to see the morphing of generations, and also the fact that it's great. I mean, it's maybe a bit arrogant to say, but it's so good to see time being of such a great judge on, like, okay, so where you were, the choices you made are still relatively relevant, and that is something I find a really incredible reward of looking back and sort of seeing some of those moments back in the day that still stand the test of time, and you kind of go like, oh, great, yeah, and must have been doing something relatively okay, yeah.
I had Timo Maas on, and what a great thing about these episodes is I connect with the guests really well, and I end up becoming mates with them, and I talk to Timo like once every couple of weeks, and he was telling me his daughter had brought a track home, and it was one of his that she didn't know.
Amazing.
Played it, and she said, Dad, oh, this is really good. And he said he was just beaming from ear to ear, and he let her finish playing it, and then he said, that's me. And she was like, oh, bullshit. And he turned it over and got on the computer and showed her, and she was like, holy shit, you're pretty good, Dad. He's like,
that's I mean, yeah, not gonna lie, that's probably the best feeling in the world, for sure.
oh, yeah. Okay, I've you're on, so I've got to talk about my Lexicon. Obviously it was one of your big anthems. When you make my Lexicon, you're in the studio, do you feel like, obviously it's a part of your soul, you put in your heart and soul into something. Did you think it would be as big, not just with progressive DJs, but trance DJs, house DJs? Did you think it would ever have been as big as it was?
No, no, not at all. It far outgrew where my own ambition, not only ambitions, but where my own sort of like fantasy would bring it. Specifically looking back now and go like, it's 25 years later, and you listen to that tune. A few remixes came out in the last 2 weeks, and seeing it sort of play out in front of an entire new generation, and basically creating the same emotion is incredible. And I would have never thought that it would sort of bring me to where I am today, because in the end we all need that sort of like one moment, the moment in time type of record, that lives on. I'm not gonna lie, I did, after, when it was released, about a year or two after, it sort of became a burden, because I came in conflict with, again, the sort of idea of like a DJ should like have his eyes or her eyes on the future. I want to be translating what I think is current now, and not so much looking back. And I didn't specifically want to become the thing that I resented from pop music that came before that. It's like this whole idea of the Rolling Stones playing "I Can Get No Satisfaction" for the 4,000th time. However much money you make from it, it's like it would be a very sad day. I mean, I understand they potentially look at it from a different point of view, and obviously singing your heart out, I guess there's something different about that as well, because maybe electronic music is a little bit more disposable, or not a little bit, it's probably more disposable. So you could put more emphasis and more personality into a catalog that consists of your singing about your heartbreaks, or what, your drug issues or whatever. So I did feel, yeah, there was a certain type of resentment. And it's funny because it's like the people that sort of break through after me, let's say I broke through, or my best years so far have been somewhere between 2000 and 2004. Then I had a little moment during 2016. So let's say every 10 years I catch a little cycle where I can come up with something relevant. The big stars that sort of broke through after me, obviously, whilst the scene had grown into into what it had become, basically 10 times bigger than when I started. Yeah, these DJs and these acts were already far more aware of the fact, like, hey, I'm not just a DJ, DJing relevant music week in, week out in clubs around the world. No, I'm literally, again, a potential pop star that can make millions a year, by creating this identity around me. I mean, from Daft Punk to Swedish House Mafia, I think Daft Punk were probably the first ones. But a lot of people go look at them and go like, yeah, they were underground, and no, they were not underground. They were extremely smart, and they knew exactly, like, we're gonna go all the way, and we're gonna bring it all the way there. They were probably one of the first examples of superstardom created out of this scene, by creating a myth around the act. So they were very aware of who they are, and where they stood, and how their catalog could become, the Rolling Stones in the end. I've always had this weird ambivalent relationship with the creating side and the DJ side. So the DJ, for me, me as a DJ, I am still 15 years old. I'm looking for that fucking amazing record that's going to change the night or the moment or the lives of people. I mean, that's maybe a bit grotesque, but that's me. I'm looking. That's a part of me. I'm looking for those moments. I'm creating my sets around that sort of idea. And then apparently, I've learned to translate my own ideas about what music is in the studio, and I've only really put that to use to sort of try and translate moments into them becoming popular records themselves, mostly because I, again, want to be out there so that people can book me so I can play relevant records to them. But the two are obviously not really, they're not really aligned, because my DJ side would say like, okay, well, that record's been played out now. I've played it for a year, and regardless if it's my own or if it's someone else's, the record's just not relevant anymore. So we got to move on to the next. So your question was, did you realize it was a big record? Yes, I realized it was a big record, but it also created the sort of backlash where it's like, that is not just my identity, is not just my Lexicon. And I understood, obviously, that it was a big moment, but it almost seemed like the record became bigger than what I, as a DJ, had anticipated and where I wanted to be. And I think some of the elements that happened after that, because once you taste a little bit of that sort of rainbow, it's like, okay, so you can get tricked into sort of like, okay, well, now I want to be relevant. So you start making music not from the heart, but a little bit more from the head. And I could surely say that I've been guilty of that on a few occasions where I maybe try to catch that moment again, whereas my Lexicon was simply a moment created out of the record. I, at times afterwards, chased it. And it's only actually been on a few occasions where I really had to, and that's maybe why The Fruit and This Is Miami and Can You Feel It and the records I'm about to release now, that they are individually quite far away from each other, because I guess that's what I wanted to do. It's like, okay, so I've done that. Now I want to do something totally on the other end of the spectrum, see if I can do the same thing there. And that obviously is not something that a lot of people are willing to follow, because it's kind of a stretch to go, okay, well, so getting questions like, well, he probably doesn't make his own music, because it's so different, there's no identity in it whatsoever. And it's like, well, the identity is, I'm translating what I think is current at the moment, and I do that from a DJ point of view, and I want those records to be part of my sets. And regardless of the identity, this is the identity of music I love at the moment, and this is my rendition of that. Am I blabbing a lot, or do I make sense?
No, you make a lot of sense, because I'm not a James Hype fan. I really like his style of music. his music to me sounds very formulated, and everything I've ever heard of a DJ set, he always plays like Ferrari in it. That would just bug the absolute shit out of me if I had to play those songs. Like if you had to play my Lexicon every single DJ gig, I would hate it. You
Yeah.
really, I'm like to say the Sander of 20 years ago. You play it, and you haven't played it for 20 years, and there's a special gig, and you drop it. The crowd is going to go absolutely like insane,
Mm-hmm.
because it's
Mm-hmm.
not been played. But I can't imagine being a DJ and just playing the same old set over and over again.
No, I understand, but I think if you look at James, for instance, I do actually really like him because he's also that odd guy that sort of like, yeah, literally made it happen for himself just because he was it was fucking relentless and consistent. And I think that consistency and this whole understanding of like, hey, I'm James Hype. I'm the sort of like I'm gonna portray this sort of against all odds type of dude that came from nowhere, and now I'm here. In the meantime, making millions. Let's not forget. But I'm one of you guys, and I completely understand that. It's like you're a 17-year-old bedroom, whatever. You want to sort of make that, and you want to look up to something or somebody that has been through that journey. And I think if you have that type of success, again, when your identity is so intertwined with everything that you do, from your social media to the music that you release, just simply that sort of whole brand identity package that you've built around you, you have to stick to that. And again, to me, as a music lover, as somebody who is completely in love with the journey of finding music that is relevant and new and fresh, it is 100% against all of that, and hence, my breakthrough moments again around the turn of the century. Chesto came up, Armin van Buuren came up, Ferry Corsten. There was a bunch of Dutch guys that they did held on to their identity through thick and thin. Chester may have sort of, went through some pop star moments and wanting to be David Guetta, but now he's back at trance. Everybody's like, oh my God, it's amazing. He's back at trance. He's always been true to that one sound, that one identity, and they just keep on doing it over and over. Henan Cattaneo, brilliant DJ, love him. Nick Warren, brilliant DJ, love him. They have been doing the same thing within that realm, within that sound. They've been doing the same thing year in, year out. It's if you can do that and you're happy with it, and you can enjoy that, and you can bring that across from a genuine point of view, that is incredible. I am simply way too what's the word? I mean, I guess I don't know. I'm just hungry for new. I'm hungry for new. I cannot be doing what I did 10 years ago. I cannot be doing what I did 20 years ago. I want it to be new and fresh. Although, must admit that at the moment, I am falling in love more and more with the sort of journey-esque aspect of DJing. That was for the longest time. I was a bit lost in connecting the dots of a journey. I felt it was difficult to bring a lot of sort of sounds in one place and a lot of directions in one place. At the moment, I feel like there's more of a sort of general direction that I can own and put together in a cohesive journey type way. So meaning would start with a softer, warmer, jazzier type of approach, and then slowly build it to something bigger and something more grotesque and with more energy. And I feel those steps in between are a bit easier to make right now. So it's for me a very great time for the sort of journey DJ, I guess, because I love doing that. I love taking shit from A to B and really sort of stretching it but to do that, you have to jump from sound to sound and from a certain energy to a certain energy. And I feel we're in a very healthy place at the moment for that approach. I'm happy with that. Yeah, yeah.
Well, what's your like favorite like time slot like to DJ?
Well, anything between 11 and 5, I guess. I mean, if it becomes sort of like that, sort of, it depends. I mean, my favorite. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. My favorite nights are get me on at 10 when the doors open and let me play till 5 in the morning. That's my favorite. Um, it's hard to find rooms with 1,000 people in it, or 5, 7, or 6, 700 people in it. And at the moment, at least with my reputation or my status, to go in there and to command that sort of, a lot of promoters are like, hey, we need this, or you need to double up with a name, or we need to, and fair enough, that's fine. But I think at the moment I'm hungry to sort of get to those rooms, and therefore I'm excited to be in the studio, and therefore I'm like, oh yeah, let's make a couple of records that make a difference. Not so much. It sounds awful, and I don't want to sound but I'm literally doing it because I want to be doing those 5-6 hour sets. Not for any other reason. Not to sort of have some I don't know, some my Lexicon part 2. So coming back to my Lexicon, it's like I'm making those records almost to a certain extent stand in the way of having that type of freedom. Yeah, I think that's it. I think you make records like that, they dictate who you are and they dictate your direction. Pasha did the same thing to me back in 2008, 9, and 10 when I started that residency. It's like, okay, I'm now a Pasha DJ. However you look at it, there's a certain type of sound, a certain sort of mixture of directions that you need to put into that club. And I did, because I was DJing in front of people that expected that type of vibe. And I'm a DJ. So I'll give them that sort of vibe, I'm not like, yeah, fuck everybody. Like, this is my sound. And, I'm completely convinced of myself and this is what everybody should be following. I could never. Like, I admire people that could do that. And I admire the strength and the artistic freedom and almost the sort of like the bravery of like, sort of like, this is me and like whatever else. And you can follow it or not, but this is who I am. And I'm just going to go there and I'm just going to keep on doing that. I admire that. But in the end, again, going back to the 15-year-old me, I'm in front of 500 people and they expect me to do this and they expect me to do that. I want to keep that expectation so it's always a trade-off. It's always been a balance between what they expect from me and what I can give them. And what that means for my identity is really completely in that moment, it just doesn't cross my mind at all. I'll play whatever the fuck I need to play to create that moment and to make it amazing,
That's why I love clubs like Stadio in Montreal.
Absolutely.
They give you that breathing room. I just finally got around to listening to Sasha's 6-hour set, and it's just a masterpiece. And Dave Seaman and Anthony Papa did a 12-hour session, and it goes from ambient music to full on, prog, to back down to some like vocal house. That's what I love, and I think that's why the whole club versus festival kind of thing. Festivals only give DJs an hour, 2 hours top. You're only just getting started at an hour and a half.
Yeah, 100%. But it's easier for someone who's simply beaming an identity or beaming a brand. It's easy for James Hart to go like, yeah, and obviously that's fine. That's fine. But I don't know. You can't have a discussion about, okay, what's the difference between John Mayer playing the guitar or the guitarist of Kiss? It's like it's both a guitar, but that's probably where it ends. And it's the same with DJ culture. It's like, okay, yeah, they all play on the same decks, but honestly, there's no comparison.
Yeah, it's just changed so much. Wanted to ask you, like, when you first came over to the States, were you kind of amazed at like how informed like the audience was?
Informed?
Well, yeah, I mean, like musically.
No, I've always found the States a little bit more forgiving. I think I thought specifically at that time, because I had DJed quite a bit obviously in the Netherlands, and then slowly the UK and France, and there was a sort of jadedness about European culture, a certain arrogance. I guess sort of like what I found in Europe was that people made music a bigger part of their identity than people in America. I think in America it's more enjoyed, and it's more like, yeah, we're having fun. Literally, we're having fun. And I thought in Europe, it was more like, yeah, this is my identity. This is who I am. So a bit more serious, I guess. And I found that quite refreshing. Also frustrated, like, I've played in Miami and in Vegas where I was like, holy fuck, what am I doing here? I was like, this is like, I'm so out of place. But being in space in Miami, or in stereo in Montreal, or in certain clubs in New York, it's like, oh my god, yeah, this is there's certain humbleness as well, to be honest. Like, I'm here this is the birth ground. This is like literally, this is where this whole idea is born by people looking for an outlet to celebrate their identity. I don't know. I don't know. I still haven't made my mind up specifically on a lot of these things, because I'm still, I guess, to a certain extent in the middle of it. So there is yeah, it's still an ongoing process. Was I surprised about how? No, I wasn't specifically surprised. No, I wasn't surprised. I was happy about there's a bit more forgiveness, and a little bit more of a sort of like, we only live once type of element. Yeah.
It's just been amazing to see how much like the electronic music has grown in the States. From like I said, I used to go to Orlando. Simon's in Gainesville was just one of my favorite places, because it was a hole in the wall, where
Yeah.
1,000 people would come from all over Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was a melting pot.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Chatting shit to somebody at 9 a.m. on the rooftop at Simon's. It was just kind of a surreal moment.
Yeah.
Moving to Austin and just seeing how it's progressed here.
Yeah.
It's just so nice to see. I'm not a big fan of like the EDM kind of sound, but I just feel that a lot of those kids that are going to these EDM big festivals in a few years' time will have had enough of that, and they'll go, I want to start doing more of the club scene. And that's where the resident DJ comes into place. I just think that there needs to be more emphasis on the resident DJ. They need to get their props as well, because they're building a night from scratch as well. And then
oh yeah, 100%. I think absolutely. And we were talking about like the identity of a DJ, the brand that they represent. It's all fine and dandy when you're strong and big enough to sort of like command 5,000, 10,000 people, whatever. You can build like the brand experience around that moment. But when you go into a club, you're a part of a club. You're a part of a family, and you're going into someone's living room. There's certain ideas and certain styles and certain ways of how they've been doing things for a long time. And I think no one knows that better than the resident DJ. And those are almost also like two worlds, it's like, and I think it'd be healthy to sort of look at DJ culture in that sense as well. Yeah. It's the same as, like I said, with the John Mayer and the Kiss example. Those, yeah, they're both guitars, but they're totally 100% different experiences. And that's, I think we should be there as well right now, where it's like DJ culture has also two different sides. It's like you can go to the David Guetta show and you get the Guetta top 20 of his records of the last 20 years in whatever form mixed. And you get the fireworks and the whatever and the moment. But that has nothing to do with playing in a 500 capacity club for 10 hours. Those are like as far apart from each other as possible. We shouldn't compare them at all. And I guess from where I'm from and what I've learned and how I've matured, I'd rather be a part of that sort of 10-hour type journey. And maybe there was a moment where I saw that train pass by, and I sort of looked at it and went like, "Oh my God, it's like Swedish House Mafia just made $300,000 for a show." Could that have been me? And really, the honest truth is, no, because it's not me, and who I am is who I am. And coming to terms with that and realizing that and sort of like seeing the difference and understanding that those are two different worlds is very helpful and very healthy, I think. On the other hand, looking at Solomon, some of the stuff that, Kind of Music's doing as a collective, however you look at it, for the last 15 years, I've loved their music. I've really enjoyed it. And now they're having their pinnacle moment in their career. They got 20, 30, 40,000 people joining their shows because they stay true to themselves. They like that sort of journey DJing aspect of it, and they can bring it all the way to 20, 30,000 people. There's a new act or relatively new act in the Netherlands called Another in the last 3 years, really broke through. They throw parties where they're the headliners. There's 20, 25,000 people listening to fantastic, organic and greatly produced music from the heart without any other intention of bringing some real joy across and keeping it, and it sounds awful, but keeping it as real as possible. So yeah, I see a lot of different elements and developments that are very, very incredible, and all elements have their moment in the sun, and everybody that deserves it, I feel, gets a little moment if they play their cards right. So yeah, it's what it is.
Well, what do you have coming up?
Well, I mean, to be honest, like when COVID hit, I was a bit burned out on everything. I don't know. It was just my ears were tired. I had flown, I don't know, 5 million miles. Obviously playing Champions League in the early 2000s, and then sort of slowly having to deal with like, okay, now I'm playing second division. It's like this is not a 5,000 capacity room in South America. I'm now playing for 500 people. There is something very humbling about that, but there's also something like, okay, well, what does that mean to me? Like, can I deal with that type of sort of like realignment in reality, or do I keep it where it was in terms of the memory? And there was a moment where I was kind of afraid of like, okay, am I going to be that sort of really old guy that's going to be in a, like half empty room somewhere halfway across the world, sort of trying to find like what was once really cool and relevant. And I had a problem with that. And when COVID happened, I was kind of sort of happy to a certain extent. I didn't miss it. I understood that it wasn't really a part of my identity at all. I am a dad and I'm a human being foremost, apart from having done that for 30 years, having given up practically all my weekends and all the birthdays that I didn't attend of my family. And for a moment when COVID sort of like slowly disappeared, I was kind of like, yeah, this is good for me. Like I'm not getting asked every day, like, hey, do you want to go and DJ? And why should I ask other people, like, let me DJ? I was kind of like, no, let me just stay in this for a moment. Still checking tunes, still doing the mixes online and still being involved in music, but just not the sort of like endless chase of the gig. Until my daughter about a year and a half ago, the 21-year-old, was like, "Hey, Dad, like I haven't seen you till I was 16. You were always gone. Now I want to go out. I want to go to Coachella." And you always talk about, "Oh, I remember that time at Coachella when I was 8 back then." And what about and at that time there was a promoter in Buenos Aires that kept on asking me like, "Hey, there's a big crowd here that wants to see you. Why don't you get your stuff and come over and do what you're good at?" And around that same time, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to do this gig. I'm going to take my daughter with me, show her kind of like what's up. So, we fly out there. It's pretty long flight and 15 hours. And my daughter's kind of like, okay, whatever. No, we'll see what this is all about. I bigged up Argentina at the dinner table on various occasions. And I start DJing and this club is full. And after about 2 hours, mind you, I hadn't played for a while, and after about 2 hours, I really get into the thing and is realizing this is just like riding a bicycle. And this club goes off. It's like, and I look to my right and I see my daughter, I see my daughter looking at me, going like, "Dude, who the fuck are you?" And it was kind of, and to be honest, it really sparked something in me. It's like, yeah, man, it's like, this is who I am actually, and this is definitely a part of me. I can't just walk away from it just because it became a little uncomfortable, just because it was confrontational with what I once knew. Fuck it, prove it to yourself. You're not that old. You still got the energy. Go out there and make that difference. So yeah, so ever since I'm like, without I don't want to be sort of sending myself a message of that creates like a crippling ambition to crawl up the ranks and stand next to Solomon again. Not at all that at all. But there's a certain type of energy that requires having that room filled, sell something out. There's a few things that you need to put in place, and I'm kind of excited to do that, like at least give that a shot. And so I'm quite active in the studio. Released a record with a South African DJ called Themba 2 months ago, which was the first release I did for a very long time, maybe 5 years. About 5 years. First release in 5 years, and my Lexicon remixes came out. I got a bunch of projects coming up over the next 12 months. I got booked at Coachella, which I'm doing in a few months. And just I don't know, just out there, I guess. Yeah, just stepping up.
Still living the dream, which is good.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's also stuck in airplanes, and there's a side that you forget, and a side that I'm quickly reacquainted with in the last 6 months. But it's all good, man. It's in the end, dude. It's like there's not much that comes close to sharing a passion, and then making people happy and be in the midst of it, and being the switchboard of those endorphins.
Well, for one, I can't wait, to hear new music from you. Like I said, every single person I've had on as a guest, is as a massive part of my musical journey. So, it's always a pleasure to have somebody on that I regularly put on the decks. My kids have listened to my Lexicon, the 4 Seasons EPs, and it's my little 8-year-old who's like, how do you bring in the second track? How do you do this? And I'm just loving it. It's like
amazing.
Whether she takes it up or not, I don't care. What I see is a smile on her face, and that means the world to me, because she'll ask, how old is this track? And I'm like, 25, 30 years. I mean, she can't even fathom, how long 30 years ago.
Absolutely. I've just done a re-edit of Spectrum's Kind of New. So like a new, like I basically jacked up the T Schwartz mix. And I got a bunch of kids, 8-year-old, 9-year-olds running around here going, "We all live and die," and I'm like, "Oh my god, this is great."
You've made it then.
I mean, in my little universe here, for sure, 100%. Yeah.
I love that. That's what brings me such joy, is just hearing little stories like that about family and just everything. I guess we'll end not on a sour note. I mean, a quick what do Ajax need to do to get back to the pinnacle of being like?
They just need to swallow it all, dude. They are they've sunk quite deep. I think looking at the hierarchy, the structures, there's been some scandals inside the club that's had real serious repercussions. I think Ten Hag leaving and what he brought to the club was outstanding. I think the club has not been able to find a manager of that quality again, regardless of what he did at Man U. The man knows how to motivate 17-year-olds, and that is a specific quality. Slot, same. I mean, with what he did at Feyenoord was, I mean, obviously, I mean, yes, sure, Liverpool, but in the end of the day, here's $500 million. Fucking find a team. It's like that's a bit easier than his 100 million or 50 million or whatever the budget of Feyenoord was back in the day. And what he did there was, I mean, incredible as well. So we need to find a new bottom. We need to restructure the club from all the way from deep within. And find people who want to commit for the club. I mean, Ajax also thought it was a good idea to become a business, publicly traded business. I think they should just take it off the market and become a club again. And they need to rebuild, and then maybe find. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I think hiring a bunch of technically great fucking 5 feet guys is just fucking stupid. Like, this is modern football. You need strength and you need length, and everything they bought was it's cute, because they're again technically skilled, but I don't want cute. I want a murderer in my defense. I want someone that goes like, "You're not going past me, whatever the fuck you're trying to do with all your wizardry and trickery. I am," and so the balance needs to be restored. It needs to be not as naive as it has been in the last couple of years. The results with Ten Hag were obviously incredible. That whole Delict, the whole Delict generation, and what they accomplished by getting to the semis in the Champions League is unbelievable. We shouldn't dwell on that. We should really go back to the core and build it all up again, and just take the punches. We're irrelevant at the moment. I know the real ones out there are going to keep on supporting it. And it will find its moment in the sun again, for sure, just like I will. No, I mean, I'm joking, but like that's how it is. It's like you can't. There's a moment in time where you have to stop thinking about like, well, this was our school, this was where we were all about. Yeah, this was, back in the day when football meant something different. I think modern football requires a different approach, and they need to let go of some of their identity to be able to reinvent themselves in the same realm and become a relevant part of the future. And if they don't, then unfortunately they probably won't have a place under the sun, because I think that's sort of honestly the Premier League has been dictating that. The lots of power, lots of energy, not so much focused on individual skill or individual talent, but really build build a solid machine back and forth, both in the offense as in the defense. Not specifically all on that one guy, or that sort of like those 2-3 guys that sort of like carry the team. There is no player anymore that carries a team. It is the team. And manager needs to find the balance in that team. And yes, you need a leader for sure, a dominant leader, often a defender. You know, Van Dijk is obviously a leader. You know, there's a bunch of people, a bunch of players out there that then within that realm have that leadership. But the basic foundation should be a well-balanced team, and not something based around individual talent. That was football from 20 years ago. That doesn't fly anymore, you know, and that's what Ajax needs to do.
Yeah, I would like to see Ajax back in the Champions League and doing well. Not beating.
We're in the Champions League, but we're like literally
just not
number 38.
Yes.
We've lost everything. We've lost against teams that I don't want to talk about it. We lost 6-0 yesterday to AZ Alkmaar in the cup. 6-0 in 100 years. We haven't lost that bad.
At least you're not like Real Madrid, where they just sacked Alonso, they bring in Arbiola, and they just lose to a second division team.
Jurgen Klopp is going to go and do it, right?
No, he already quashed that.
Oh, is that okay? I read that. Okay.
He doesn't.
Yeah, but I mean, at least they lost with 1 point difference. We lost 6-0. If you see the game, it's like childish. You almost go like, you know, when you go like, I could do better. Honestly, seriously, it's like, but maybe they just went like, what we want to end up becoming is number 2 in the league, so we can basically make some money in the Champions League. Maybe that's their whole. Maybe they just gave up on the cup and went like, no, we don't want the schedule, we don't want the diary. We just want to focus on maybe. But 6-0 is pretty tragic.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah.
Well,
all right. I also have to.
Yeah, I was going to say thank you so much, mate.
No, you are more than welcome.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. And
beautiful.
Again, to talk about music and football with you is it's just brilliant. I always pinch myself, but thank you everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, put your notifications on. Go check out Sander's music from 25 years ago, but make sure you check out what's coming up for him, because I'm sure it's going to be phenomenal. If he's in your city, go see him. I hope you come over to the US in the next year or two.
Absolutely. Go see me at Coachella in April.
Yeah, maybe if I can bring the whole family. But thank you, everyone. Until next time, please stay safe and take care of one another.
Thank you. Bye.